What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie298 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet, and this is my weekly gaming news wrap-up, so let's get right into the games. Now, don't forget, the Game Awards for 2017 is live December 7th, I think, sometime in the evening. You'll be able to watch it live on Twitch and YouTube and a few other places. For effort of full exposure, it is my friend Jeff Keighley who does produce this event, and I won an award there last year, so I'm definitely biased for the show. But that's not the news. The news is Nintendo actually purchased a block of tickets for the Game Awards and is giving it away to Nintendo fans. And this probably points to something a lot bigger. The Game Awards is not just a place for awards for the games and the people who make them and play them. It is also an opportunity for companies to announce big things kind of towards the end of the year. Nintendo has definitely used the Game Awards as a platform to do that. In fact, we all heard about Breath of the Wild's release date and saw footage of it for the very first time at the Game Awards. We also heard about No Man's Sky for the first time at the Game Awards too, so it's not always good news. But it looks like a lot of people in the industry are speculating that Nintendo must have big news if they're buying up tickets and giving them away to fans, so they probably want Nintendo fans to be there in the audience to cheer along when they announce their big thing. So expect something from Nintendo, and you can also expect probably one of those cringy world premieres just before they announce it too. Why do you do that, Jeff? I love you, but man. But another good reason to tune into the Game Awards is, don't forget, we heard a lot about Kojima's Death Stranding there, and Kojima and Jeff Keighley are pretty tight, so if he's got anything to talk about that game, it's probably going to be on this year's show as well. I was also really excited about hearing some news about Anthem, but you know that's EA's game, and I was really hyped for that game during E3, but at this point now that Battlefront 2 has come out, you know that game is going to have troubles when it launches because it's a game about collecting powerful guns and beautiful armor. You know there's going to be loot boxes in it, but come on, EA. Get this one right. Get this one right. Oh, and going back to Nintendo, I should say, in last week's episode, I told you guys that I thought the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One would sell well, but the Switch would sell like hotcakes. Well, that's absolutely the case. It looks like, according to some analysts, the Nintendo Switch was the best-selling gaming console both on Friday for Black Friday as well as Cyber Monday. So that is pretty cool. It looks like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One did still very well, but the Switch did a little bit better. So again, if you want to get a Nintendo Switch for someone you love for Christmas or for even for yourself, you better shop early because I expect this thing to be very hard to come across by Christmas. But then again, Nintendo's been doing a lot better with supplies, and they really need to supply this one because it just won't stay on the shelf. By the way, the most asked Christmas question I've gotten this year is not which console to buy or which product to buy, but which Nintendo Switch games to buy. So if you are going to pick up a Nintendo Switch, this is the top 10 list over there at Metacritic. I can personally recommend The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey. If they're a Mario Kart fan, they will like it. Shovel Knight has a wonderful port here. SteamWorld Dig 2, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, one of my favorite games. Stardew Valley is a very relaxing game. It was always hard for me to get into, but once you get into it, it's very good. And finally, Axiom Verge, if they're a Metroid fan, it's probably as close to a 2D Metroid as we'll ever get on the Switch, so I highly recommend it. This episode is sponsored by the folks over at NordVPN, and if you're shopping for a VPN service, I would check this one out at nordvpn.com/BOOGIE. Now, for those of you who have never heard of a VPN before, you're about to hear a lot about them in the upcoming weeks because everyone's going to want one in a world without net neutrality. And the reason NordVPN is useful in that world is because you basically send all of your data to a Nord server, and then that server will then contact everything else for you. And so your ISP can't see which websites you're surfing. All they know is you're contacting Nord and no one else. But Nord also takes your data and encrypts it using military-grade encryption. So if anybody is able to sniff stuff out between here and the Nord server, they pretty much can't get into it unless they can get past military-grade encryption. When you sign up for Nord, they'll actually give you a Chrome extension that allows you to click a little button whenever you get into a scary place on the internet and start encrypting your data and sending it through the VPN like that. If you say, for example, if you are on a store website and you're about to purchase something and you want to keep your credit card information safe, then you just click that button and it's going to get encrypted. I also installed their app on my phone, and I'm really glad I did because, you know, I got hacked about a year and a half ago and got my YouTube channel deleted, and when that happened, I was connected to hotel Wi-Fi. Here's the thing about Nord. It will always encrypt your data as long as it's on. So if you're the kind of person that hooks up to a restaurant Wi-Fi, a hotel Wi-Fi, or something like that, that data is not safe, but Nord can encrypt it and keep all your information safe, like your YouTube password, which is something I definitely don't want anybody to know. And while there's plenty of different VPNs you can choose from, NordVPN is the only one to get a perfect score from PC Magazine, and that means they're one of the best. So if you want to keep your information safe and your internet footprints a secret, go to nordvpn.com/BOOGIE. I've had it installed on my phone for a couple of weeks now, and I really appreciate the extra security. I don't think I'll ever stop using this myself because I definitely feel a lot safer while I'm using it. And while you're there, if you sign up for a 2-year plan, they will give you a 72% discount. So it only comes out to a few dollars a month. I highly recommend it, especially at that price. So here's some good news for gamers, but it is definitely not good news for EA or any of the people that work there or any of the studios below them, and definitely not for their stockholders. But it looks like since Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the whole kerfuffle and drama that came from that, it looks like EA has lost about $3 billion worth of value in their stocks. That's insane. Now, here's the thing. That's just a dip for the folks over there at EA. They were doing really well for the last few years, and I'm sure they will regain momentum at some point with all of their games coming out. But this whole thing made national news, and a lot of stockholders decided to jump ship once they realized that the target demographic, people who play video games, were not satisfied with the video games that EA were making. So hopefully, just hopefully, this will see the folks over at EA right their ship. Probably not. So the CFO over there at EA, Blake Jorgensen, actually spoke recently, and he had a few answers for the folks who are upset at EA's recent things. And when asked about the loot box controversy and why they didn't go with cosmetic items, he had a fairly strange answer. The one thing we're very focused on, and they're extremely focused on, is not violating the canon of Star Wars. It's an amazing brand that's been built over many, many years. So if you did a bunch of cosmetic things, you might start to violate the canon. Darth Vader in white probably doesn't make sense versus in black. Not to mention, you probably don't want Darth Vader in pink. No offense to pink, but I don't think that's right in the canon. Now, we've actually heard in the past that Disney was pretty specific about the canon for this game, but let's be entirely honest, there are a lot of different outfits, a lot of different costumes, especially once you dig into the comics and the books that are canon, a lot of different looks that you could have easily went with here. You don't have to have a pink Darth Vader, you really don't. What's even crazier, if you want to see a Star Wars game that has cosmetic items built right into it, all you gotta do is play Battlefront 1. The first Battlefront made by EA had cosmetic options for your stormtroopers, and you could do that for your droids, and you could do different looks for your heroes. It is entirely possible. But on top of that, so much of Battlefront 2 is not canon. Have you not played Heroes versus Villains modes? There are plenty of scenarios in that mode that just simply could have never happened. Those characters, some of them never even met. So besides shilling for loot boxes, Jorgensen also had an explanation for the closing down of Visceral, and this one's not very good either. He said that over the last 5 or 6 years, it was down to about 80 people, which is subscale in our business, but some of the video games I've loved this year were made by 4 or 5 people, but whatever. And the game they were making was actually being supported by a team in Vancouver and a team in Montreal because of the subscale nature. And we were trying to build a game that really pushed gameplay to the next level, and as we kept reviewing the game, it continued to look like a style of game, a much more linear game that people don't like as much today as they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And look, I don't have the statistics from the last 5 or 10 years, but here's what I can tell you. My top 10 list for video games this year will be dominated with single-player, linear games. They're all of my favorites, from Zelda and Super Mario Odyssey and even Persona 5. I played Final Fantasy 15 this year. It was fantastic. Uncharted sold through the roof. Some of these games are some of the best-selling games of all time, for goodness sakes. Not just this year, but all time. And so once again, this just seems like a stupid mistake or some sort of cover-up, or in reality, they just may not know what they're doing at this point. I don't know, but whatever it is, this just doesn't make sense. And look, even if we extend the guy the benefit of the doubt, I don't think he deserves it here, but let's do it anyway. And let's say people aren't as interested in single-player games as we were a decade ago. I am, but maybe not everybody is. Yes, it's probably harder to sell a single-player game as it used to be, and yes, maybe it doesn't make as much money as a Call of Duty clone that has all these upsells and microtransactions and season passes and stuff, people that will continue to play forever. But it is possible to create a good single-player game and get your money back, or in many cases, double it, or triple it, or quadruple it, and in some cases, even this year, get 10 times as much money as you put into it. And if you're not trying to do that, if that's not enough money for you, then you're not trying to make a video game, dude. You're trying to spend lead into gold, and that's just not a possibility. This is a video game industry. Doubling and tripling your profits is a really, really good business model, okay? You should stick with that, or else your company will continue to get $3 billion losses as you continue to make bad, greedy games that no one wants to play. But you know what? That's just one man's opinion, and I could be wrong. And if I am, I know you're going to let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, don't forget to check out my sponsor, NordVPN. The link is in the description box below. We really appreciate them supporting this episode, but more importantly, thank you for keeping my data safe. Guys, as always, thank you for watching. I love you very much. I'll speak with you again soon.